Okay,
Does
it's
he-
6:02 and I will call this workshop to
Do you
order.
need it too?
Yeah, I emailed it to him.
So I will
Okay, you got
say
it.
roll call, Mayor Pro Tem Phil Lopez. Councilmember McGovern,
Yes. Here.
Councilmember Styler, I don't see him. And Councilmember McLeod
Here.
and Councilmember Clinton.
Here.
And I'm Mayor Place. If you would all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And please remain standing for invocations. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for Martindale and all of the people who have come out for this meeting, Lord God, thank you. Heavenly Father, thank you for the rain. And Lord God, I just ask that you give us wisdom and discernment and help us to find solutions that benefit everyone. And as always, I thank you for the gift of salvation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, we do have a place for public comments. If somebody has a comment other than what's for the workshop, this would probably be the time, but I don't have anybody that has given me anything, so I'll probably move on. I think it would be really nice if we just went around the room and introduced ourselves and gave your address. So, as you know, I'm Catherine Blaze and I live at 403 Northwest River Road. I also wanted to introduce Alice and Pineda. She's from San Antonio and she's our intern. And she's been very, very helpful. And she decided to stay late and observe what was going on. Okay.
I'm Jessica Dagon. I would like to Human Services. We're assisting the city with this grant. I live in Liberty Hill, Texas.
Sam Clinton, 107 Martindale Street.
Sunny Villalobos, 413 Northwest River Road.
Garrett Dusich-Schlager, and I have a couple properties on just down the road on May. I'm Quentin Matthews. I'm at 214 Northwest River and in the process of getting to 209 Northwest River.
Cindy Woolley, I live on the other side of the county.
Barrett Bitter, 203 Northwest River Road.
Oh, but Cindy also keeps the John Creighton Cemetery clean.
Oh.
Wendy Jones, 101 Lockhart Street.
And Craig, her husband,
Virginia Parker, I'm at 1061 Martindale Falls Road, and I'm with the San Marcos River Foundation.
Joy Youngers, I'm at 305 Johnson Street. Gloria Menschlechter, my husband Clay, we're at 101 Plains Drive on the corner.
Mine McLeod, place 405 Northwest River Road.
Matthew and Dorothy McGovern, 213 Northwest River Road.
Hi, Agent Flotis, Assistant City Administrator for the City of Martindale.
And I'm Gary Freeland with Freeland Turk Engineering Group, the civil engineer design on this project.
Tom Turk with Freeland Turk as well.
And we're gonna let Freeland and Turk tell us what their new design plans are.
All right. Adrian, can you put up my PowerPoint there?
Adrian, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted the iPad, but it said somebody was trying to access FaceTime on there.
It was trying to do an update on FaceTime.
So is that off now?
Oh, yeah, there's no FaceTime on it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Are there people on Zoom right now?
There is.
And can I ask who? Always do
Just
that.
do the presentation and move along in the meeting, and
I'm sorry.
I can give you the attendance list after.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right. If you'll advance the slide there. So we met back in October 10th, I think, 9th?
Nice.
Okay. Had a room full of people, very good attendance. There's a couple of 2 or 3 takeaways from that meeting that we got. Go to the next slide. Three things that we took away from that meeting was avoid right-of-way acquisition from the south side of Northwest River Road. Minimize the impact on significant trees on the south side of River Road. And come back to us with an updated layout that would accomplish those things. So we have done that. There is a layout on the table here, and then we also have a layout that will be able to flash up on the screen when I'm done here. So hopefully between all these TVs and the paper, you'll be able to see what we're proposing. All right, next slide. So there were 4 fundamental changes that we made to accomplish those goals. The first one was to realign the road so that it meets more or less at a 90-degree angle intersection, which would require a stop sign. All right. All of that roadway is located within the existing right-of-way, so that we don't have to acquire any right-of-way to create that intersection. That realignment minimizes the impact to some major trees along the way. I kind of highlighted 5 or 6 of them there with green there. And because people have to stop at the intersection, it's somewhat of a speed deterrent. I know some of the residents on Northwest River Road wanted that, so. Next slide. We had originally put the water line on the south side of the road. We have flipped that to the north side of the road. And so we're eliminating that need for space on the south side of the road. The downside is that we need 4 parcels of utility easement, about 15 foot wide. I believe the lots on Plains Drive have a 15-foot utility easement on them. We're simply extending that on the north side of Northwest River Road. I hate to do that, but it's the only place to really put it. There will be some impacts to the trees. That's a kind of a representative picture. I'm not sure of the landowner of the tract, but that's a very,
That's my driveway.
pardon?
That's my driveway.
That's your driveway, okay, but you don't own the tract next to it, correct?
Not the wood lot.
Yeah, do you know the name of the owner?
I got his name and number.
Anyway, so that area between the pavement and the existing electric line would have to be cleared of trees. I don't believe that there's any notable trees in there, but there are trees nevertheless. Yes, sir. Welcome. Next slide. So another way that we're reducing our right-of-way needs is to eliminate one of the box culverts. We had originally proposed 2 7x4 box culverts. We would take one out and we would still have one.
Same size.
Same size, 7x4. That will hold a 2-year storm, which is about 25% of a 100-year storm. So it's still a very substantial amount of conveyance, but less than we had hoped for.
Did you say 10x4?
7x4.
7. Okay, thank you. And what did it convey when it was 2?
It conveyed about a 10-year storm, which is roughly
50% of the
about half of the 100-year storm. And then the fourth item was to shift the proposed sewer line. In our past layout, we had the proposed sewer line following the alignment just outside of the second box culvert. Since we're eliminating that box culvert, we're able to shift that to the north. And because we're doing those 4 things, we're not taking any right of way on the south side of Northwest River Road. We will be asking for a 15-foot utility easement where they don't exist on the north side. And let's see, go to the last slide there. This summarizes no right of way on the south side. Most of the significant trees are to remain. Do want to make sure everybody understands that we need to establish a 10-foot clear zone from the curb out. So if there are trees in that clear zone, they need to be removed, or we need to put a guardrail around them or in front of them.
Can we go back one slide?
You bet.
Would the guardrail be temporary?
Permanent.
So I wanted to point out the dry spading, hydro trench, and boring used when needed.
So those trenching methods that we use around roots are still available to us, and we'll use them where they're needed. But most of the trees are now pretty far back. We shouldn't have to use this extensively, but there may be a tree or two where we can use that technique. Thank you I forgot to say that. All right, for the last slide. So if you remember from the October 9th meeting, I said if we add constraints to the project, something has to give. And this is kind of the pluses and minuses of what we've been able to accomplish. So there's no right of way on the south side. Significant trees remain. We're down to one barrel, a 2-year storm, and we need some utility easements.
Would you have to expand your ditch? Will the ditch be expanded a little bit on that same side?
On the north side?
Yeah, the north side.
On the Harrison property?
No, I'm talking about the northwest road by Quentin's place and then.
We're gonna leave it, we're gonna leave it,
We won't even touch the ditch.
we're gonna leave the ditch more or less the way it is today.
It'll kind of get cleaned out. We put in the water line and remove some vegetation and things like that. It'll
Expand a little.
probably look a little better than it does today.
So water flow would probably help with the water flow somewhat.
Adrian, can you put up the roll plot?
What's the, is there cost savings in only having one box culvert and not having to purchase the land? Because before you were saying, a while ago, you were saying that you could only extend the road so far to North Skull Road.
Right.
Did we get more road out of it?
Yeah, so the cost savings of eliminating the one barrel box culvert is in the neighborhood of $300,000. So that's good news. The bad news is, since our last cost estimate about a year ago, we've experienced inflation, some kind of 4.5%, 5% of inflation. So that savings probably got ate up in the last year just by inflation. But once we make these revisions, we'll do another cost estimate and figure out where we are. And we may have to come back and make some more adjustments, up or down, depending on how the cost estimate comes out. So thanks for asking that. All right, so this is our roll plot or kind of the layout of what we're talking about. Again, we've got a near 90-degree intersection, always stop signs there. You can zoom in on that.
Would that be permanent?
Yep.
That's good.
Yes.
Is that, yeah. We had talked about it before, but like in certain cities, there's like, not full rotaries,
Roundabout.
but it's not a full roundabout. There's like an island that there's reflectors on that create kind of a visual, I don't know, impediment, you know?
Yeah, we actually looked at an alignment where some of those trees on the south side near the intersection there, we tried to put islands around it. Didn't work. Just geometrically, it didn't work. We tried. But the tree was in the wrong place.
But were they ligustrums? Because I drove by there the other day, I was like, those trees could go. They're ligustrums.
You know,
Are you an authority on that, man?
I mean, I feel good about it. I feel good about it.
I mean, it just be one way to stop traffic and slow it down
Be careful.
and have it kind of more smoothly take that turn. I don't know. Just
Well, and a bulb or a roundabout that you're talking about,
a bulb, yes.
takes right away.
Sure, but a full roundabout does, absolutely. But like in Austin, I see them all the time.
Yeah.
They're just like
Even-
little- they're like little football shapes,
Uh-huh.
and they get you to slow down.
Yeah, and it would, that potentially could have more impact than the sweeping curve that we had there, because then you've got to create a full travel lane plus the island, plus another travel lane, whereas the sweeping curve before was just two travel lanes, about 24 foot wide. And when you break down to a single lane, you typically want to widen that lane, like especially on a corner for truck traffic, 14, 15 foot. And then if you get a 8 or 10 foot island and another 14 or 15 foot, so instead of having a 24 foot wide sweeping curve, then you kind of end up with about a 35 to 40 foot kind of footprint sweeping around that corner. So I know what you're talking about, and they're effective and they're nice.
I think the stop sign's great.
Yeah, but
It's safety. They drive too fast or anyway.
How many fire hydrants are on that street, and will they still exist, or will they be in the same place? Fire hydrants.
We
Well,
don't have anything to do
I
with.
think there's
fire
one
hydrants.
there.
There's no fire hydrants.
I think there are.
we'll replace the fire hydrants.
Is there one there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's several.
Yeah, there's some there,
Yeah.
but they're gonna have to be moved.
Yeah,
And
they'll
if
need to
we
be
can
relocated.
clarify, are they fire hydrants or are they to take out water? Because I've heard both.
To take out water.
Yeah, but
They're
for water trucks.
They're fire hydrants, and then they sometimes serve as temporary water sources for construction.
So whenever, like I hear fire hydrant, I'm thinking if there's a fire truck goes, woo, hooks up to it, puts out the fire, right? Yeah.
There's a fire hydrant, in front of Barrett's property. And something happened to it and the water department took it offline.
Well, they claimed
It's
it
not
couldn't
even
be
working.
fixed, so this was probably gonna be the time to
So,
put a new one in.
so there is criteria for fire hydrant spacing. We'll certainly meet that. Will we put the fire hydrant back exactly where it is? Probably not exactly. But we'll have the proper fire hydrant number and spacing,
6-inch water line or 4-inch?
minimum 6. The main is 8.
Cindy had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, on the other end of the new, drawing, the cemetery.
Yeah.
Has anything changed about that,
No.
or everything's the same, what you're planning?
Yeah, instead of 2 box culverts, we'll just have 1 now.
So the
So
outfall will be smaller.
outfall
Be
is
a
a
little
little narrow, yeah, yes.
And then for anybody here that knows the schoolhouse property, anyone can tell us, like, would it affect taking any more road or taking any fence down or?
Nothing's
anything like
changed.
that? Okay.
Nothing's changed?
Nothing changed for the school property.
Okay.
What about the easements? The 15-foot easements. So
Slide down a little bit?
you can explain and show
that
where
hatching
all
area.
those
Yes.
are.
Where that, yeah, come back.
So as I said, the Plains Drive tracks already have utility easements, so we don't need anything there.
I'm using the arrow keys for that.
Oh, yeah, all this hatching area.
Yeah, see the hatching? So, Lucio, is that Lucio?
Lucio,
And
That's the
then
wooded
the
area.
church,
there we go.
and then, my eyes aren't that good.
Here, Then,
G&H rental,
G&H rental
and then a
and
track next to it.
Rodriguez.
Whatever.
Rodriguez, yeah.
So 4 tracks, 15-foot wide easement. Now, understand that the area between the north right-of-way line and there's an existing overhead electric line in there now. And those are covered by blanket easements now. So that area is basically being used for utility. So the impact on the track is pretty low. There's still impact, but it's pretty low.
What about the existing fiber optic line and the existing sewer you may have mentioned on the north side?
We're leaving them in place, not touching them. The sewer line, the manholes may have to be adjusted to meet the elevation of the new pavement. Other than that, we're not touching them. And the fiber lines at the end have already been adjusted for this project.
On the Plains Drive side?
So you're not taking on the plane, so from Quentin's property all over, you're fine.
Yes.
Because he already had, and you're saying it's only gonna be 15, there's already a 15-foot right of way. There's a right of way or is it an easement?
It's the utilities.
Okay, so there's a right of way there and then there's another
Yes.
utility easement.
Yes.
So you're just using that.
Yes.
So one of the questions that I've constantly had about this project, you know, and the mayor and I had a really good lunch discussing this is, you know, this all stems to a flooding problem here on Plains and behind the back of these houses. We're still not eliminating that with this. We're redirecting it in some cases and obviously not as much. But this lot that's here, that's a vacant lot, Lucille owns it. That is the highest ground area, in essence, is what's holding back the water that is pulling behind these houses. Have we given any thought or, you know, to potentially providing some way of getting that water from that area to the road? And that would eliminate a lot of the flow issues that we have going with regard to that. And that was one of the thoughts I was trying to get through to you the last meeting after it got out of control was, you know, going another way, but using that land. But that right there, if you walk it, and that's what I was asking you about, have you done elevation? Do you have any elevation maps, any flow maps? None of that was provided in my PIR. But that is what is holding back the water going back to the developed properties, is that lot. And I don't know if it was back in the day, that was a retention pond of some ilk was created. That's what I believe it is. But we're not addressing that. And I think that's a very big part of the problem that we have is that right there. I understand what you're doing and I understand the complexity with it, but you want to talk about handling something on even a bigger scale. That would address something on a much bigger scale than even a 10-year flood.
Can you slide down so we can see the intersection?
Intersection.
Other way, I'm sorry.
To the left.
A little more?
Got it.
Okay, so in a lesser storm, that ditch that runs north and south intercepts from the north and from the west and diverts it into the road. So in the lesser storms, there's some relief. Once we get past that, there's no relief. The water pretty much goes where it goes today, which is through the homes, right across Plains Drive and into the Lucio property. And then it eventually goes into the road where basically the road becomes the bottom of the channel.
If you want to really see with the water flow, you can look right now because all the invasive growth has now come over because we've had the rain and it's come through that way. And you can see the pathway and it is parallel to the property line there about 20 feet in, 20, 30 feet in. There's a little ridge there and then it slopes right down to it.
Yeah, it's a little diagonal, but yeah, it runs right along the road. We brought that up to Mayor DeVinny. And he felt like the interceptor ditch was enough relief in the project and didn't want to address it any further.
And that was how many years ago?
3 years.
2020, yeah.
Can I ask a question? The plan, like I love the changes you've made. I feel like you really listened to us from the last meeting. If the city were able to fulfill this plan and then once it was complete, go for other grants to maybe do some of the detention ponds on the fields, or maybe deal with what Matthew's talking about with that specific property? Is the plan as it's written easy to tie additional, like, flood retention ideas into the plan? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, could you build on this plan? I know it's only one box culvert, so you can't move the volume of extra water through the box culvert, but could you capture some of the rainwater in different manners to kind of elevate this whole situation?
Potentially, as development comes online in Martindale, the typical approach is that development mitigates their own. And so if a development comes online, then whatever increase in impervious cover they have, or whatever development they bring in, they mitigate that, and they provide like detention on site and things like that. So in the perfect world, this box culvert system wouldn't ever see a situation where the flow was increased, but are you talking about
No,
providing
I'm
like a
just
regional detention pond or something like that? So,
I'm saying to get it from a 2-year system to like a 10-year storm event fix by adding other mitigating factors like the detention ponds.
so putting anything online above the culvert system is designed to carry the 2-year event.
Right.
So
I know
if
can't tie into
if you were to put something upstream of the culvert system, in effect, the culvert becomes the outlet structure, and it's combined to the 2-year event. So if you put anything online, detention or something of that nature, it would still only be restricting the flow to the 2-year event, because anything above that would overflow and continue through its path. So could you? Potentially, yes, but there may not be a lot of mitigation relevance to adding that. This
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, certainly you can, but how much does that cost, and what's the benefit of that cost? And I mean, we looked at a situation with the tract to the left there. It's about a 22-acre tract, because another question we heard was the detention question. And we evaluated putting on like a regional type detention pond. That 22-acre tract would have provided about 40,000 cubic yards of storage, but the culvert system still would have been the 2-year event. Property acquisition of that tract in Caldwell CAD, I think showed that 22-acre tract at about $350,000. I question whether or not it could be bought for that, but 40, right?
Yeah, no way.
It's heritage property.
Yeah,
Right,
you're not
right.
gonna sell it.
So in addition to the acquisition cost, that 40,000 cubic yards of material that would have to be exported to create that storage would run anywhere from the $800,000 to $1 million range for the construction cost. So, you know, that's maybe $1.5 million, property and work $1.5 million, that potentially could restrict and help mitigate up to a 2-year event. So then that becomes a question of, is it cost effective? So, and that's.
Along with that same question, if you expanded that, I know we're restricted on the ditch next to Quentin, say downstream of Quentin's property. If you expanded that ditch where it is today, say you doubled the size, would that help mitigate any?
Not much.
Not
We're
much.
talking about a 825-acre watershed. If we're talking about the 2-year events, about 375 cubic feet per second. So to put that in gallons in a minute, I don't have a calculator on it. It's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
You said
Flow.
800 acres of runoff and 200.
825 acres of land.
So that would not, where it always floods is by the schoolhouse, by the grave.
I was just gonna ask that, where ponds
Right.
like that, is the culvert gonna solve that?
Talking about down in the low,
In the dip,
Yeah, where it gets kind of,
Oh, yeah.
that ravine.
so it's gonna help. And
So
so,
you'll put more earth there, it'll be kind of crowned and then shaded.
no, we'll
that
keep,
culvert.
we'll keep the low spot, but we'll probably extend some inlets out into that ditch to help that localized drainage relief.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about a 2-year event that is roughly 25% of the 100-year storm. Remember, we kind of talked about it last time, the hydrograph for this is not a linear, 2-year, 10-year, and 15. It doesn't go at a straight angle. And so the 2-year event at about 375 cubic feet per second after that event, there would still be some ponding and flooding in the roadway, but the time that water stayed in the roadway would be reduced greatly because as that went through, it would drain much faster.
Would that ditch, because I know that ditch, it follows that ditch, would expand that ditch, reduce the time the road is underwater?
Not necessarily, no. It probably wouldn't create a significant amount of storage or conveyance to do that. I mean, the 7x4 box culvert is concrete. Things flow much faster in concrete pipes, so that ditch was vegetated. I mean, if it were concrete lined, it may help, but then it would still just get things to the pinch point at the low, and it would still have to make its way across the street and the culvert and through. So
How are you gonna know if you've actually succeeded? Are you gonna go back and do testing after it rains and make sure it's contoured and flowing,
well,
I'm
so.
talking about in the major parts on Northwest River Road that pond, so like we're talking about by the cemetery and the school, by Catherine's house, all those places hold water for days and days.
I do.
I guess my question is, are you gonna come back and make sure that it's draining faster?
You bet. Yes. So our design plans get pretty detailed, and our elevations are down to the 100th. A good qualified contractor is going to have GPS type equipment when they start cutting this stuff. I mean, the roadway is probably going to be 0.5% slope in some areas. The specifications on the job are pretty tight. Tolerances are not very loose, and so the contractor's going to have to do their job. And once they do that, they'll do aspects. So to answer your question, yes. And in the design process, we're going to take a look at all that stuff. We're going to, what drains where, we do sections, we check the
I
elevations.
just want to make sure it wasn't all theoretical. And,
No.
okay, we're
No,
done,
it's-
like a big rain comes and
Yeah.
it's hadn't solved the problem.
and that our contract also includes construction administration,
Okay.
which includes,
Oh, he's caught one.
So,
inspections.
so one quick question. So that low spot where it goes into the cemetery will be actually a low water spill, like a spillway, but a low water issue for the water to drain into the river, correct?
So
Would that be would that section be in concrete? I mean,
Are we talking about south of the road
Yeah, yeah.
where the outlet is?
No, right from the schoolhouse where it all pulls, because I know we've patched that
can you
thing,
zoom in on that?
we patch that thing all the time.
The entrance to the cemetery.
There's right across from the school.
Yep. So we're going to repave the road
But
and
will it be?
fix it. And when I talk about, we're going to be stubbing out some inlets for some localized drainage, we're going to try to capture what we can to get it in. And we may have to put in some inlets there, but the stuff coming down from the schoolhouse from the right hand should be coming in. And if there's not an inlet there, we will shift the road to help facilitate that water moving so it doesn't sit in pond. It's the sitting in the ponding, the saturated soil that degrades the pavement over time.
We have spent a fortune on that thing, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if it would be work for
We're
concrete. in that
going to
area.
fix that.
Yeah,
Okay.
the idea is to minimize that ponding so you don't have those failures
Gotcha.
that we're seeing today.
Keep it out of the water.
I would really, as a representative of the cemetery, I would really appreciate some numbers on what I see on that map. I want to see how long that is, where it starts, where it stops, what the material is used. I'd like a breakdown of all of that.
And we have those from before, right? The cemetery.
What is the, I see a retainer wall, or what's the red line? What is that?
Yeah, the head wall structure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's currently, there's kind of some rock and concrete, but there's kind of a drop off right there. And so, yeah, that would be a head wall structure. A lot of that would be concrete, that hatched kind of area. Would be putting in some baffle blocks, but that could be anywhere from some rough concrete or gabion, potentially big like bull rock, things to help minimize the erosion potential outside of this riprap rock or concrete.
I believe I sent that to you about a year
But
ago.
not all the dimensions, all the numbers. I'd like to see all of that. How much is gonna be actually taken from that cemetery?
That easement parcel,
The city has that.
Yeah. That's
The
what I
numbers?
said.
The-
How thick is that retainer wall, the bulkhead, whatever you're calling it?
So not much of that's changed, is what she's saying from?
Yeah.
the
We'll
last-
actually be scaling it back a little bit
be a little narrower.
because we only have one culvert now, so it'll get a little smaller. But the easement that we're asking for, the city has a detailed document on that. The actual thicknesses of the wall and the length and all that, that's part of the detailed design that's yet to come.
You don't have that yet.
Don't have that yet, but I mean, that's, good representation of what it's gonna look like.
So that box down there, is that down in that ravine, down low,
Yes.
down the creek?
Exactly. Yes.
So that's not gonna be up top where the.
You probably won't even see it.
The little angled kind of line would be the top of the head wall structure, and it'll probably sit 6-8 inches above the grade. And then right on the other side of that, it's gonna drop down pretty good.
Can I make an annoying comment about the gabions potentially? If y'all cover them with wiring, will you make sure they're not coated with anything? Because all that coating ends up in the river.
Right.
I know that's real nitpicky, but.
Not at all.
Talking about the
We care about the river.
galvanization.
Well, and that's
Not at all.
not 100% the way that we've decided to do, but no, that's a good point. I mean,
Just
that,
if-
gabions are an option.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't like them too much. I'd rather see, big 12, 18-inch boulders down there. They don't move very well, but gabions will silt up and grass grows on them, and then they don't look like big boulders. So that is the benefit to gabions.
I had a question. You said one box culvert instead of two, so if it's draining off of the culvert parallel or in the field there, if the culvert in the road isn't taking the water quick enough, will the culvert in the back along the fence of the field still overflow into Plains Drive, in the back of Plains Drive? If
Please
it's
over
too
to
much water,
Plains Drive.
it would seem like it would still, and if you want to give us some insight on the flooding you've seen, I appreciate that. Because you live right there.
Yeah,
Is
there's-
there anything you can add?
Sure.
I'm getting over severe sinus infections, so excuse me. Hopefully I can talk.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we moved there in 98 and in the cul-de-sac, yeah, it's like a river. I mean, we had the 98 flood in 2015, of course. I mean, I've got a lot of questions and I apologize, this is our first visit here. We watched October's online today as much as we could. Let me just go to my first question. So our house is 101, right on the corner on the west side of Plains Drive. Right where you'll have a stop sign, everybody will be
Okay.
backing up everything, but one thing I know is change is inevitable, and after it's done for a few years, you're like, okay, there it is. But I know everything's moved over to our side. That 15-foot easement, I mean, I've got an ash tree on the corner that keeps falling limbs. If y'all take that down, I'll be happy. How much further, I guess, is it 15 foot plus 20 foot? I mean.
They shouldn't have to go beyond that 15-foot easement.
That's where we had the electric poles.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to mess with the electric poles either.
And now on the water line, whichever way it's routed, Armdale Water Supply is always fixing a line in our yard. which is on the north side. But I guess that's all gonna get changed and rerouted.
So the water line will be replaced to include your water service and your meter box and your meter.
Gotcha.
And that's as far as they will go.
Gotcha.
Everything behind the meter
Oh,
is
of
yours.
course, yes.
And do we still get a driveway budget? I mean, there was a budget for paying for the driveway up in the, right of way or the easement area. Yeah.
Along the ditch?
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a
Whenever
maintenance
the
road.
road's being done, there'll be a driveway or part of a driveway. The cost will be given to the landowner for construction, that part of the driveway, correct?
Oh, you lost me.
Okay,
Start
so
over.
the part that's part of the easement right of way, that area, there'll be money set aside for a budget for people for a driveway.
We'll be replacing
repairs.
everybody's driveway. Everybody will get a new driveway.
And could they replace it, say, if they want to concrete?
They'll all,
You want to know, can you upgrade?
they'll all be concrete and everybody will get the same.
It'll be concrete.
Well,
You get what you got.
are we replacing all with concrete or like materials?
It's their money. What do you want? Do you want concrete or you want like materials?
Concrete.
Or if we want concrete.
Concrete, but
With that asterisk, if we can afford it, right?
it's cheaper than asphalt right now, and it's more ecological.
I think like before we start talking about like materials and stuff, I know that I made a request for a complete budget report. I wanted to see how much was already spent, where it was spent at, because we're talking about items like, without having a conscious about cost. I still have not received my complete budget, the way that I asked for it, because I wanted it itemized with items that it was fixed for. And I think that's very important whenever we're talking about, all of this. Our numbers are important. We can't just say like in general, or you want concrete, or you want this, because we're not talking about money. And money is what's going to be driving this, but we need to know how much that is.
Yeah, so our next step is to refine this design and then do another cost estimate.
I know, but like,
And-
I wanted the cost, like, from the time that the grant started, like, itemized, like, I use this much for environmental, this amount. I use this much for the cemetery study, it was this amount. This is how much my services cost for X amount of hours, like, I wanted a detailed itemized budget report. And what I was provided with was a total amount of each thing.
Let's explain a little bit. So
While
it's
we're on
broken
it, you wanna
down.
put up the budget.
Okay, so it's broken down into those categories that Jessica gave you before. And the way grants work, it's not like there's receipts for each of those things. It's, how do you describe it?
It's, GLO has broken down in milestones and percentages. So you have the very first milestone for, like engineering's commencement of engineering. For administration, it's commencement of admin and startup documents at the beginning of the process. Same thing with environmental. Then the next phase is completion of environmental. And they allow certain percentages to be drawn down each. All the city has drawn down so far is for
Remember that detail.
admin, environmental, and engineering to get us through environmental and then go through the design. And then you have a separate construction budget where we submit these contract management pay apps, and it just deducts from that until completion.
I'm sorry, I'm a grant writer too. Just to say that we don't have receipts for it, do you mean that we have not, that they haven't provided invoices and we don't know
Right.
exactly what we paid for what?
Yeah, that's.
We don't?
Yes,
That's the concern.
but when you're
What?
doing something like
How does that make sense?
engineering, that's like so many hours have been spent
Sure.
doing the work. You don't have a receipt for that. That's,
But did you pay them?
but yes,
Have you
and
guys
there
been
are
paid?
records.
Yes.
There should be a
And
there's
so-
an invoice.
We've got an invoice.
That's
With
what
a
we
breakdown
have
of the
to do.
hours and what they
And there
went
should be a
to.
budgetary.
Not necessarily. Our
Oh.
contract is lump sum, fixed fee. It's a percent of
okay.
construction. So it's based on progress and milestones.
I see.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can look at that? At
The city has all our invoices.
Okay. Could it be made available?
That's what I have requested.
Let's,
so-
yeah.
Not yet.
Okay, so back to the Plains Drive area.
And my last question, we talked about the river going between the houses. After this is done, you may have mentioned this, what was going to redirect that a different direction?
So-
To the field and over to,
So in the lesser storm, that north-south ditch there intercepts the water and it bypasses the Plains Drive and goes down Northwest River Road.
past the sheet
In
road.
storms of 2 years, above 2-year storm, the water's going to do what it does today.
Right, exactly.
It's going to flow out of the ditch and into the swale that goes through the houses and over Plains Drive and into that channel.
Or like our house is just a little higher than all the others, so they've gotten flooded, we have not yet, knock on wood.
But this will capture 25% of a 100-year flood. So it's significant.
But our,
Yeah.
our home's never flooded in the 100-year floods, right?
That's right, yes.
So it's like, so why are we doing it? But
Well, what about the other houses that flooded?
Those are back in the cul-de-sac, which really, that's all that's affecting them. Nothing's gonna be done on the road in the cul-de-sac, so.
have we done research on any other areas in Martindale? Or just this?
No, this was the area that was identified by the city. Yeah.
Actually, not.
May I ask a question?
Actually, originally it extended from
Yes.
Quail Run all the way down Northwest River Road to Lockhart. And then, what was it, about a year and a half ago, we had to rescope it because of inflation. And yeah, so now it just goes through the curve. Yes, ma'am.
Just to piggyback on what the gentleman was saying, looking at the rest of Martindale, and I'm sorry, I'm a little late to the party tonight, but have we discussed how this project is actually fundamentally aligned with the goals of the GLOs, of this opportunity? I mean, the helping 75% low income populations. Has that issue been addressed? Because as a grant writer, I'm still not seeing the alignment here for how this is actually benefiting the low income communities of Martindale.
There's a lot of floods on the other side of 1979.
Yeah.
Is the point.
Yeah.
You know, if we haven't even looked in that, I think we're not doing our due diligence as a city and as city officials to at least acknowledge that. Does that not make sense to everybody else in the room? or is it just me?
And the
Nope,
argument is
that's not
gonna
just
be
you.
that that's a thoroughfare and that, blah, blah, blah.
Right, but if you're on
But it's
1979,
not, why would you ever drive that?
It's not a good argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something.
So tonight, we were here to present a new design, and we'd really like to stay on track as far as solving the problems that the homeowners had brought up to us. And I think that the engineers have done a really good job of doing that, addressing their concerns they were concerned about more land, and so we've cut that back. And the other items that were of concern to the landowners, we've really addressed all of those issues. So we won this grant through a scoring system at the state level. And it's really a coup for a little town like Martindale to get a $6 million grant. When we get done, we're going to be solving some flooding issues along Northwest River Road that are quite significant. And we're gonna get a new road. So I'm really happy with what's happening and what we are here to present what we thought y'all wanted.
I'll
And
just
so-
tag on to real quick what you asked, is
Yes,
that
sir.
recently, in the past 2 weeks, we have looked at another grant to fix roads on Fannin Street, on Crockett Street, and Gonzalez Street, and the narrow culvert in front of the Indian Springs Trailer Park, which is about a $1.7 million project. So all of us in the council have recently reviewed road repairs on the other side of 1979, namely Fannin, Crockett, and then Gonzalez. So it's not like we're just completely committing ourselves to this project. We have looked at 6 other feasible projects that the engineers drew up designs specifically on those other streets. And as she said, it's not a topic tonight, but just to reassure you, we have looked at other road repairs in other parts of town.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That
Yes.
doesn't reassure me, though, that this funding
The $6
is
million
actually
fund.
benefiting the populations that the opportunity is supposed to benefit.
Well, in regards to the proposal from the last city council meeting, the city council got the plans like 3 or 4 hours before, and then the city administrator, who I don't know where he is, he wanted everybody to vote on it. And it's just like, what is going on here? Now you're gonna take more right away from people and not even let them know that you're discussing their properties?
Well, we had it on the agenda to vote on it if that was the way that it went, but we also gave the opportunity to give more time. And with Jessica's help, we did get 3 more months to continue to explore the different possibilities.
And we tabled it
But
that
then-
night.
We
And,
did.
you know, they did a good job.
In all transparency though, it was talked about and favored amongst council members, not with me, but Quail Run. Again, that's where it was being looked at. And I just wanted to just
We're
piggyback
getting
off
off topic.
Not
of,
really.
I wanted to.
Related,
This
it don't
is,
matter.
this is the topic.
This is it.
That's the topic.
No, the topic is this grant. We have the engineers come to talk specifically about this project and the new design and if it's acceptable to the public.
But Mayor, like, they've been getting, I as a council member have been getting email after email after email after email, and I don't have all the answers, and somebody needs to answer to them, and, I know that our engineer cannot respond to emails. And so this is their public time to ask the questions, and we said in the email that was stated that in all transparency, that's what this meeting was for. So
Right.
I know that there's still a lot of questions.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
many.
you're like, here's
No,
your option.
no,
this
it's
is
not.
it.
This meeting wasn't for all of the other projects that we're working on.
No, not
No, no,
for the projects, but their questions.
Like, why can't we disperse a $6 million fund and grant amongst the entire city's drainage issues versus just river roads? That's the concern. Is this the best option and the best way our city council and our city can spend a grant of $6 million in
Well,
drainage?
the state of
That's what we're
Texas thought
discussing.
so.
Wait, can I ask a clarification question? Because I think this might answer what you're asking, and I understand what you're saying. When y'all made the proposal for the grant, it was specifically for this area.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's not
And,
like at this time, you could change the location.
No, we can't.
And so I think what I'm hearing is that going forward, the community would appreciate if other parts of town were addressed, right?
Right, yeah.
With
And
new.
so I didn't realize this specific, it only applies to River
Right.
Road. You
Yeah.
can't use it.
You
to-
can't-
That was the proposal.
That was
Yeah.
done
Jessica,
over 3 years ago.
Right.
It's spilled milk.
Yeah.
It's already
Yeah.
done.
so
Yeah.
Jessica.
Different administration, different
The
administration.
funds can't be used for another.
So let me ask you a question. You don't
Okay,
mind?
there you go.
There you
So in response to what that gentleman just said,
Yeah.
is that possible to do with the mod money?
Which, I'm sorry, which
He,
part? of
he,
your-
he described a more dispersed approach to drainage improvements across the city.
Yes, and we have been exploring that with the upcoming grant money that the city is receiving. And that's why at that last agenda for the council meeting, they had discussed other potential projects. This one was funded because it benefits citywide. And the city of Martindale is well over the 51% low moderate income percentage that is required to be LMI.
So wait a minute, back to that. So you specifically asked her if it can be dispersed over Martindale, the grant. Can it or can it not?
So
Not this one, the upcoming, they're getting another
There's an
grant. as
extension.
well.
So, yeah, they've got another 2.1,
2.375.
There
okay,
you go.
which is about 1.9 million in construction to do street drainage. And We got a list from the city of 6 or 7 projects across the city to look at and evaluate to see what the city might want to fund. And that was the discussion that was had at the last city council meeting. We tabled it, so that discussion is ongoing. And that approach is more of what you are describing. So let me say one more thing. As he said, you know, we looked at Gonzalez Street, we looked at Crockett Street, Fannin, and we ran into a huge problem. And it's the same problem we ran into here. To do those improvements, it requires right of way, and we would lose some really nice trees. So it's very difficult to do some of those improvements where it might be needed the most.
Right, got you.
And when some of those folks have already contacted the city and said, we don't want to lose our trees, we don't want to lose land. And
Those
so
are
it's
narrow
the same
roads.
kind of thing.
Extremely
So,
But we also heard some good news about a master plan that will have an opportunity to create for the whole city a $300,000 master plan. And we're working on that. And so that'll give us input onto how to really talk about all the smaller, narrower streets in the historic part of downtown, how to expand from that. So we just had a meeting today about a $300,000 grant, correct, for a master plan. So
we just had the kickoff. Adrian, would you like to talk about that?
Sure. So the city last,
Are we on topic?
I mean, this
Well,
is definitely off topic.
Hey,
Definitely off topic, y'all.
But it's just showing that we're open-minded.
Like Bonnie McCarroll.
I mean.
Yeah. I was trying to find.
What's
We just wanted to tell you
Yeah,
about
just
the
tell the good
grant.
news.
You
I
were
just wanted
asking
to
about.
reassure people that there is a plan for the
To-
city and we
to
have that in
listen
place
to
and the meeting was today. It may be slightly off
Citizens'
topic.
concerns.
We gotta go back and forth though. We gotta be fair. If we're gonna go
Okay.
off topic, we gotta be
Yeah.
fair.
You can't,
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for an answer to my off-topic question, which was, how does this benefit the low-income populations of Martindale?
Jessica, can you help address?
Yeah, I had mentioned earlier, it was funded because it was a citywide benefit. It's the main road that goes through Martindale, so the general land office considers that a citywide benefit, and the city of Martindale is low to moderate income by census as a citywide. So it was one of the main reasons that Martindale even got funded, to be funded for this project.
So you're using the income of the people that live on the other side of the town as
The whole
a
city.
justification for this road improvement?
On that side.
Yeah, on the other side of town.
It's an average.
Okay,
It's an.
It's an
It's an average.
of The whole city.
right. Huh.
Adrian, did Bonnie have a question?
Mayor, you let me
Yes.
know. The Zoom audience not to speak.
Yes.
Now that there's a bit of a pause. All right. Bonnie.
Good afternoon. This is Bonnie McCarroll. And my husband Tom and I are the property owners at 211 Northwest River Road. This new option, as far as I'm concerned, basically only transfers the same problems and issues from one side of the road to our neighbors on the other side. So I believe that most of my questions are still relevant regardless of which option is chosen. I would like to use this opportunity to ask the questions that I have been wanting answers to and have been unable to get. Because the engineer has indicated that he will not answer any questions by email, and the Langford group has directed that all questions be sent to the city. And because the city has answered none of my questions thus far, this public meeting is my only opportunity to be heard and ask questions. My questions are directed at the current option that has been approved by the City Council. Because this new option may or may not be approved by council, I would like to go ahead and ask my questions of the individual. I also have questions of individual council members. I have questions for the mayor and questions for Mr. Annable, although I don't know if he's there or not. I may never get another chance to get them answered, and many of them will apply regardless of which side of Northwest River Road is used. So before I begin my questions, I would like to ask Mayor Glaze if I will be able to ask all my questions.
How many questions do you have?
I got a lot, but most of them are yes and no, and I think we can get through them pretty quickly.
Proceed.
Please do.
Proceed.
Okay. Okay, at the last meeting, after my first question was asked, the meeting devolved into a chaotic debate with the engineer commanding the majority of the speaking
Please ask
time.
your question.
Okay, instead of, may I please speak? I'm tired of you trying to monitor and only let me say what you think I should be able to say. At the last meeting, after my first question was asked, the meeting devolved into a chaotic debate with the engineer commanding the majority of the speaking time instead of answering questions. This went on for almost 2 hours before we got back to my second question. And I guess I should say we're doing a little better today because I think we're only an hour and 3 minutes in now. I would like to ask that the citizens who are directly affected and may be losing property and trees be allowed to speak and ask all their questions and get answers. I have quite a few questions, but the majority of them can be answered with a simple yes or no. So they should go quickly. And because I am on Zoom, I would also like to ask that I be treated with the same common courtesy that you would afford any citizen in the room by acknowledging me when I have my hand raised. And again, we're doing better this meeting. Last meeting, it took 2 hours, and this meeting, you finally acknowledged me after an hour.
Mrs. McCarroll, would you please get on with your questions?
I am also requesting that there be no comments or questions from anyone other than the person being asked the question until I have finished with my questions. Mayor Glaze, is this acceptable to you?
I would like you to get on with your questions, please.
Okay, I will begin my questions for the engineers, Freeland and Turk. So my first question is, did you use frequency analysis during the design of this stormwater drain to estimate how likely rainstorms of a given magnitude will occur or be exceeded?
Yes.
Okay. Question 2, will putting these box culverts under Northwest River Road keep the areas at the S-curve and in front of the ravine from flooding in a 25, a 50, or a 100-year flood?
No.
Number 3, when the San Marcos River reaches flood stage and backs up into the ravine by the cemetery, in your opinion, will the stormwaters in the culvert be able to drain into the ravine?
No.
If the water is unable to drain from these new culverts into the ravine, what will happen to all of the water flowing down from the open drainage ditch along the west side of Plains subdivision when it is unable to flow through the culvert?
It will flow as it does in existing conditions today.
No, it'll still back up. Okay. Will it flood the S-curve?
Above the 2-year event, yes.
Will it increase flooding in the road in front of the ravine? This is all when the river backs up into the ravine because it's at flood stage.
At what storm event?
100, let's say 50 or 100 year.
Okay, so for the 100-year, the culvert system is designed to convey 2-year. So during the 100-year event, you will see conditions like they are today.
Right, you'll see flooding at the S curve and flooding at the in front of the ravine.
That
Okay.
theoretically should mimic what you see on your FEMA floodplain maps.
Okay, what do your hydraulic studies show you in this situation?
Just,
Have
can you clarify that question?
Well, have you done hydraulic studies?
Yes.
Okay. So now I have, these are questions about the right-of-ways. At the last meeting, you answered my question about the current right-of-way size. You said it is 45 feet from the property line on the north side of the street to the property line on the south side of the street. At one of the meetings, you said you will need 80 feet of total right-of-way to accommodate all the utilities and double sewer and water lines. So this new right-of-way that you are trying to acquire is almost double the current existing right-of-way. Now I'm talking about the current project, not the new project you're opposing or you're proposing.
So the existing right-of-way width varies.
That 45 foot was, I think, in front of her house, kind of at that pinch point.
The McCarrolls? I think
Kind of right there, I think so.
The right-of-way is actually wider than 45 feet, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you told me at the last meeting. So I'm going by what you said at the last meeting.
So on the west end of the project, the right-of-way is 45, 50 feet wide. But on the east side, it's much wider than that.
I know,
believe
but
there was some-
my point is you're going from a 45-foot current right-of-way to an almost 80-foot right-of-way. I believe it's maybe a foot under that. Is that not correct? You said that in a meeting.
Now, is this the old project?
The old design?
Yes.
So this new
No.
design that is being proposed tonight, I don't believe affects your property.
Okay, what is the current road right-of-way then going to be from property line to property line for this new proposed project?
Same as it is today.
45 feet?
It varies from end to end. It's not a consistent width throughout the length of Northwest River Road.
Okay, let's say in front of the Plains subdivision, what is going to be that total right-of-way from property line to property line?
Hold on one second. Right at Plains Drive, there is currently about 51 feet.
And that's with the new acquisition?
There is no acquisition at that intersection of Plains Drive and Northwest River Road.
Okay, I guess, so I'm asking about where you're getting acquisition. Is it going to be about same 50 feet?
The new plan.
Yeah,
there
about
is no
60.
Acquisition.
So at the corner of McCarroll and McGovern properties, at your common property line, at that point is about the narrowest section of right-of-way. That's currently about 45 feet. We will be requesting 15 foot of right-of-way, easement on the opposite side of the road. The right-of-way will remain at 45 foot, but we will be trying to acquire a 15-foot utility easement to move the water line over there.
So the total would be 45, 50, 60 feet then?
No, the right-of-way doesn't change.
No, I'm not
easement and
talking
the
about the
right-of-way
right of way. I'm just talking about right of way and easement together.
would be about 60 foot, correct.
Yeah, okay, all right. Now I'm still talking about the old project because you haven't voted on this new project and you could stick with the old project. So I just want to get my questions answered. So if you stay with the original proposal, you're going to want 80 feet of right of way or almost 80 feet. And do you think that this right of way is excessive for a residential street?
So the right of way would be varying. I think at that corner, the original plan proposed about a 20-foot right of way take, which would have given it about 65 feet of right of way.
In front of my house?
Maybe 70 at the end.
At the 70 at Plains, it would have been 70 at Plains.
Oh,
because it was
51, 71, so about 71 foot.
But in the Bonnie and yours, it would be 65 to 65 on our shared property is Matthew, and then a little bit more on the one downstream.
And so the question was, do I think that's excessive?
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah, most standards for a local street is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 feet. That would be a standard. In this case, since we're attempting to construct some significant drainage improvements, it needs to be a little wider. So is it excessive?
Well,
No.
You know, at the last city council meeting on 11/2/23, you presented those 6 new projects in Martindale. And during your presentation, you said that you had researched right-of-way sizes in some of the surrounding cities. And I believe you mentioned Ulen, Lockhart, and San Marcos. And you said at the meeting that you thought that 50 feet was a usual and reasonable right-of-way, and that you recommended this 50-foot right-of-way for all the streets in Martindale in this new project.
Yes. What's your question?
So my question is, so you were wanting almost an 80-foot right-of-way, and in the portion of the road from the S-curve to Quail Creek, it would go back down. The road goes from a 25 3/4 feet wide down to 22 foot wide and back down to a 50-foot right-of-way.
Yes.
So that just seems odd to me that on this one particular section of street, we have this gigantic right-of-way that you're not going to do anywhere else in town. And as you continue down from the S-curve to Quail Creek, it goes back to a 50-foot right-of-way.
Well, again, we needed a wider right-of-way because we were trying to construct 2 7x4 box culverts.
And now you're eliminating one of them. And, you know, I don't believe this is going to help flooding at all. I think we're wasting $6.7 million. And the man in the audience, whoever he is, who just made that same comment, I believe is right.
Duly noted.
Do you have any more questions?
I have a question for Mr. Styler.
Here.
Is he there?
I'm right
Yes.
here, yep.
Okay, Mr. Styler, I wanted to ask you, do you believe that this project will mitigate significant flooding on the road between Lockhart Street and the S-curve?
Well, as the engineer said, not in a 100-year flood. In a, what did you say, 2-year flood? Yes.
Yeah, but the drainage ditch on the side of the road can easily handle that.
Well, I'm not an
I
engineer.
respectfully
so-
disagree.
You
All right,
know, we listen.
Mrs. Villalobos, I have a question for Ms. Villalobos.
I have a question for you.
Okay,
Listen to all of the concerns of all of the citizens that came to the October 9th meeting, and we cut the project in half, basically. And so now we're not asking for right-of-ways on your side of the street. I would think that would help satisfy some of your concerns.
but you haven't even voted on this yet. You're just talking
but
about it.
We're getting citizen input.
That's
And-
exactly what I'm trying to do, is give
We'd
citizen
rather
input.
not state what past concerns were a month ago, since we have come back to the drawing board and are addressing the citizens' concerns.
Well, you haven't been though.
Do you have some questions about this new proposal?
No, I only got it 5 minutes before the meeting.
So did we.
I mean, how do you expect us to answer intelligently
This is
on
a
something that
workshop.
we just got?
This is a workshop for us to talk about the proposals and to work things through. So in the coming week, if you could please address your concerns to the city council members, we would be happy to address those.
But you haven't up until now.
Yes,
They have fallen on deaf ears.
Address them.
You tell
Several-
me that you want me to express them in a city council meeting. Then when I try to express them, you want to throttle me.
Well, can we get through this proposal? And then, yeah, I mean, you have everybody's number and email. After this proposal, obviously, there was a lack of communication before the last proposal. Now we're gonna have better communication with this new proposal. So let's give it some time, and we're not under the gun right now. So let's just please continue what they have to show us. And I really appreciate your concern for the community in Martindale.
Yes.
All right, well,
We thank you very much.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Turk, I had a quick question.
Yes.
Are we going to use the boring? Are we gonna, you know, it's gonna answer. the
Yes,
question.
it was in
Are you gonna
the
bore under the street?
presentation. It was in
Would
the
you just say it
presentation.
out loud so he has it on record, please?
We will bore under your tree if we need to.
So, okay, that was I mean, I'm not gonna speak for everybody here, but the trees are the number one issue.
It's in my PowerPoint, yes.
Yeah.
We have dry
We've been
spading,
backed up and
we have
looked at it.
hydro trenching, and we have boring available if we need it.
So on the north side of the street, like Bonnie asked, the reason that you picked the north side is because of you don't want to do it on the south side, but there are there are probably zero desirable heritage trees on the north side of the street. Where are the ones that you want to remove on the north side?
It is that string of trees and that first section of hatched area. Our tree survey information indicate that all of those trees are hackberry trees.
Okay. Or ash, I think there's some Arizona ash there perhaps.
And-
His tree.
Potentially, maybe. Well, but that's down here. I'm talking about these trees right here are all hackberry on the.
Yeah, they are.
These guys right here.
And there's still a
Back
few
row.
on the south side that are going to be removed, like on Melanie Martin's property, almost on Fester Van and Melanie Martin's property. There's a real nice tree that's actually in the right of way.
The elm tree that's there.
And
the big
it'll
elm tree.
probably have to go.
I've got a plum tree that I planted, which was right in the line of fire of that water line.
Mayor, and then I wanted to ask, so now since the project has changed to the other side of the road, have you made contact with the owners of that land?
They're here.
And they're the only ones that.
Well, I stopped by their house today.
I called.
Yeah.
Oh, I called
church,
Craig and Wendy, we called
No,
everybody.
but like the church, you said the
Yeah,
church.
actually, I
Oh,
visited
the
with the church
church.
today. He was gonna be here, but he has a business meeting tonight. And, he's comfortable with whatever.
Called Barbara Hall.
And then the
He's-
Lucios.
Yes. No, that's the only one I did not make contact with.
I stopped by two houses
Probably
today.
one of the most affected by the city.
Uh-huh.
So I would imagine, hope you can get out.
That's the wooded area. Lucio is the
So
wooded
they're from-
area.
And that's probably mostly hackberry, right, Dylan?
I didn't.
All
have
of
a
those trees
phone
along that
number.
route are hackberry.
All hackberry, still should be.
Yeah,
So is this
Right.
viewed as a new proposal that has to be voted on by the council?
yes.
Okay, so are we gonna see viable alternatives to this, the required by the grant and NEPA as well?
What,
You want more alternatives?
Well, so the first go round, thank you for responding to my email, by the way. But the first round, there were three alternatives.
Yep.
From the grant that this council voted on in July of 22. And so we were all like, well, why wouldn't you choose, option 3? There's no tree destruction, you don't have to move utilities, you don't have to move sewage. It's gonna be probably millions of dollars less. So, my question to Ms. Dedone was it a viable option? And we never heard back as far as an answer to that. Because you had said that it wasn't a viable option, then you said that it was a viable option. And according to the grant, according to NEPA, you have to have two alternate, or 3 total choices to pick from. So my understanding is if a couple of them weren't viable options, well, then you're gonna have to present us 3 viable options.
so when we did that meeting, that workshop, all of those options were presented. And, the city council later voted to just go down Northwest River Road. Now, even if we would have put a viaduct down, what you're calling the third option on Mr. Mader's property, he's sitting right back there. We still would have went down Northwest River Road. It wouldn't have eliminated that part of the project either. So it would have went both ways.
So there would have been box culverts going down Northwest River Road?
Smaller, but yes.
They would have been smaller, like what we're doing
There
right
would have been
now.
pipes, or they would have been box culverts? Because I believe they were pipes. 'cause
It
there was a
could have been larger pipes, yeah.
Okay. So, that was the one thing that everybody whose land is affected getting cut the speed on was like, well, that option, you'd only have to deal with one landowner, and I'm sorry that it would be true, but, you have to deal with one, or also the Harrison property, whatever. And so, the amount of destruction is very clearly nowhere near option 1 and the current option. Like, from what I recall from that option, you didn't have to move utilities around.
But you had to acquire property.
Yeah, 2 properties outside.
Yeah, but I mean,
And you're not going through a historic cemetery.
But you're
where
going-
They just
but-
discovered
but-
31 unmarked graves.
when I was
Oh,
talking,
no, yes, you would have, because it would have still went down Northwest River Road. It still would have went down that way, but it would have just went both ways.
But you wouldn't have had to have built.
and then somebody would have to have a culvert going through their prime riverfront property. That was the one determining factor.
Who was that?
Mr. Mader,
It was,
My in-laws.
yeah, it was your property, I remember, your prime real estate, you didn't want a culvert through the middle of it,
Well, my recollection was that it was also gonna be more expensive.
and more expensive.
And plus, on top of that, the acquisition
Yes,
costs.
Well, it
acquisition.
wasn't more expensive because it was in the environmental, or in the presentation from
It was
July. It was
$500,000.
$500 less, but that didn't include the acquisition costs from just having one property owner versus 7. So it would have been much cheaper than $500,000. But that was 2 years ago, so who knows what it would be now. But we still haven't gotten an answer, was that a viable option or not?
At the time when the council voted on it, they didn't vote for that option, so we didn't do an environmental assessment on that option. I did reach out and I did respond to some of those emails just last week about that. It also, not only is it going through his property, but it's going into the designated floodway.
So is it not going into the floodway cemetery?
No.
My house and Mike McLeod's house are both now in the floodway.
Okay, so then it wasn't a viable option.
Well, this council chose.
That's what we
Why was it-
determined. That's what we determined with a different mayor, with the three viable options we all voted on, thought would be the less invasive for the property owners, because we're actually following the flow of the existing with the ditch following North Whistler Road. That's why we picked it, because it did the same flow pattern going to the cemetery. That's what we voted on.
Is it my understanding that you can't use grant funds in the regulatory floodway?
90-degree turn there at the proposed stop
Yes.
sign.
It's
just counterintuitive.
You generally cannot use in the floodway, because it's harm to life.
Right.
There are, like I said in that email, there are some instances where they do allow you to use grant funds in the floodway, but they're very specific. It's not a very broad description, which I did reach out to the general land office. I have not heard from them, but I did ask about this specifically.
So an option was presented that the grant would not fund. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not saying that, we wouldn't have known if that was, if they were to go with that option, we would have done a preliminary just environmental check. And we would have seen the floodway, and then we would have said, well, let's consult with GLO first to make sure they would allow that. And then we would go from there, but it wasn't selected, so we didn't research that option.
Okay, so if this option is presented, there have to be two alternative options with this option. Is that correct?
This is an additional option.
This is additional layout.
Okay, so this is option one, alternative one. This is it, just modified. Is that what I'm hearing?
Let's see, we presented three options
There's 3 options.
back in a
Originally.
year and a half ago, so this would be 4. This is
Okay.
option number 4.
So
Plus
now
you
we know
have-
that 2 of them were viable, so now we need just one more, because we have to have 3.
One was by,
I don't know what
They're-
definition, I don't think
The
we're really
governor's
clearly
They're all viable.
defining what viable is. I mean,
Well, one thing we knew when we voted on at the time, we knew that that was going to be the original flow in a 15 flood event. We all knew that was going to be that what happened in 15 would happen again. You know, doing those other ones, we wouldn't know how it affected in the floodway.
but what he's stating is if it's viable or not, and he wants 3 options
Well-
that are
Well,
viable.
that's the
So
reason.
I don't want that, the grant wants that, GLO wants that, and NEPA wants that. So,
They got it. We were cleared, environmental.
so presenting an option that couldn't be funded by the grant is a viable option.
Well, no,
Only-
she just said it
only-
wasn't. She just said they don't know if it could have been funded by the grant because we didn't go down that pathway.
Well, I know, but it seems like if you're gonna, what if if the council would have voted on it, then,
With the information we had at the time, I will go on record, I voted for it because if we had a 15 flood event, it would be the same situation would occur. Whereas we do, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Turk, by going these other options, we didn't know.
I think he's just concerned that maybe we didn't do our due diligence.
Well, you know what, we did our due diligence, we did our due diligence, I'll stand on record, we did our due diligence. We had multiple workshops, we went through it, and with those 3 options, we thought that was the less invasive to landowners, because if you got a land, you want a ditch or culvert through your riverfront property, do you want to call
fair enough, fair
You-
enough.
you'll
I
say?
was just,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we were trying to be the most fair as we thought, the less impact on that neighborhood. That we might, that's what the 3 options we had to go with. And at the time, we had people input in the workshop, getting their concerns, and the citizens at that. I'm just saying, with the citizens at the time agreed, we had these workshops, and we decided to go that particular way.
And guys, if you think about this from the riverfront perspective, like, it's unfortunate that it's at odds with the cemetery's perspective, because if you went straight down the ditch and you came and put all the water straight into the river, then you're putting the water into the river at a 90-degree angle. And so that velocity hits the other side of the river, which can erode things. And so actually for the river, this is a better option because you've got a slight angle going with the flow, if that makes sense.
Plus we
So
have-
from an environmental perspective, angling the water flow is better for the river.
Plus, we had the history of the flow.
And the option through Matthews property would have been the same thing, where they would have just went right across there, would have went out into that river, and it would have been straight across.
Eroded the hillside on the other side,
On the other
on the
side, yeah.
San Marcos River Ranch side.
But Matthew didn't want it there either, nor would I, right?
Does anyone, excuse me, does anyone have any pictures of what the ravine looked like in 2015 with all the water? If someone has a picture of that. I would
There was
love
a
to
lot.
see it.
Yeah, I don't think.
There
anybody can
wasn't-
get to it.
Couldn't even
There,
get there.
there,
Yeah.
the water was so thick, there was even several inches of water in the downtown area. That building that they've just renovated, there was water running through that building. I mean, water was everywhere. There's no way to mitigate that much water.
It was a mile long, a mile wide.
Yeah.
Most of the water comes from Highway 80, it doesn't come from the river, it comes from Blanco River.
That's right.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
And the FEMA floodplain extends almost all the way up to Highway 80 in some parts. And so if 2015 was a 100-year event, it would not surprise me at all that there was water covering everything you see in that picture right there. I mean, plus some.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
That says it
So
all right there.
yeah, I mean, it extends all the way up to Highway 80 and just stays almost on it the whole way.
What happens if it floods during construction?
The 100-year event, that happens.
Okay, could y'all walk me through, talk to me like I'm 5. What does this look like? What does this process look like for a homeowner who you're taking the right of way from on the north side of the street? What does this look like? When does it start? What is life like? You know what I mean?
Well,
You just like,
First of all, we're not taking any right away. We're getting a 15-foot utility easement.
okay, thank you.
And inside that easement, they will construct an underground water line. And so when they're done, you won't see anything but a few hydrants, meter boxes, some valves.
So we get that property back.
We'll never lose it. It's,
Well, that- right.
an easement is simply a right,
Got
a
it.
right to use it for a specific
So but
reason.
what happens to like where you're parking, right? What happens to people's driveways?
During the
She's saying
construction.
during construction.
During
Oh,
construction?
you'll have-
I want to know the
Okay,
timeline. I
you'll-
want to know what life's going to be
you'll
like
have-
for 18 months or so.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Well,
No, I think he'll.
Oh, I think this is a real important
We're-
part.
you'll always have access to your property,
Okay.
all right? We'll have temporary driveways, temporary roads. There'll be a lot of dust. There'll be some gravel roads. There'll be a little bit of inconvenience. Well, there might be a lot of inconvenience, but you always have access.
A lot of mechanical equipment,
Trucks
Yeah,
flying back
concrete
and forth.
mixers,
Yeah.
dump trucks, excavators,
Yeah, noise.
beep, 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 beep.
For how long?
18 months, I think is what we got.
Sounds dreamy.
And we're hoping to make it more of a neighborhood street during that time, and that it's not a through street. That we have people go, across quick trail or run in that way, so that we just don't have people going through like they do right now. And I think the more we can do that.
Yeah, like-
What will be the safety precautions that will be taken for homeowners that have small children that are playing in the front yard? Or would you just recommend we keep our kids out of the yards?
Well,
I know the
We shouldn't be in
homeschool,
people's front
I
yards.
know Quinton's homeschool kids, they play in the backyard.
Yeah.
Over at the
We
school.
won't,
I mean, is there gonna be fencing? What is this, like, how would,
in,
We haven't
trying to
completely figured
understand.
out the traffic control thing yet on this.
so in answer to your question, we won't be
But
working
yeah.
in your yard. Our work will end at the property line or the right of way line. So do your kids play in the street?
will there be some sort of fence or something put up?
Sure, that'd be, it's just standards to regulate. There's some, maybe some current, that, big orange net type fencing, when we have open trenches, things of that nature.
Okay, and the specific timeline again, if you'll remind me. The 18 months.
Well, we don't
We,
have a
we,
timeline
we
yet
are,
because-
we're kind of off schedule because of this new layout. So
Gotcha.
I
Does this
don't
grant
know.
have to be completed? The work has to be completed by a certain
End
time?
of 25.
January 25.
Thank you. Yes, January 2025.
Is when it has to be
With
completed?
the current expiration date, yes. That's without an extension.
And how many extensions can you get?
You can get one up to 2 years.
So much.
Well, one thing for your concern, which
Yes.
I like about it, they're gonna put a stop sign at that second curve, which I think is great. Because I live right on that first curve and people fly down that road and I've almost been run over before. So I get your
I'm in
concern.
favor of stop signs.
I am too.
Yep.
And I've been pushing for a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit all the way from Quail Run, all the way to town.
I
Just
know.
like it is on Main Street.
But the stop sign would help tremendously.
Yep.
You don't get that past me.
Could it be a sidewalk or any kind of walking path?
That's what, beautification wise, there's gonna be
No,
sidewalks.
we talked about that at length, and the city did not want sidewalks.
We're gonna go with, down to phase one, we were talking about, that separate project.
Still
Yeah,
trying to-
sidewalks are not included in
And
this.
will they be curbing on
They're not
the
be-
roads?
The header curb, which is a flat
Like
curb.
a flat strip or
Yes,
something that's
it's
next?
about 9 inches wide. Yeah.
Right, it's not raised off the ground?
Has the water company been consulted as to any potential changes to their system?
On this,
Yes.
no.
I invited them tonight, by the way, and they're done. So,
Oh, I thought we'd been working with it.
We have, I mean,
Oh, they haven't been consulted on
on
this
this, on the new plan,
design.
yeah. I don't know why they would object to this.
I was thinking about the plan and zoning, they might, that's another one. It's Thursday.
So in the grant that just announced, so it's supposed to help 1,340 people. I want to know where that number came from. Is that the ETJ also? Like, where did that number come from?
It's the census data.
Well, the census data from 2020 is 1,253, so it's more than that. So I want to know where that came from. And then it says that it benefits 1,340 people that were getting new sewage lines
City council
on
meeting.
Northwest River Road. Well, it's my understanding, like half the city is not even using sewage system, they have septic. So how is that benefiting them?
As far as qualifying the low to moderate income part and the population for this project, GLO only, we use the current census data that they provide. And it's all the surveys that they send out every year to answer household income, how you go in your house. It generates all that information. And then they have it based off every year. They have like a 5-year estimate that they average, and that is what is used to qualify for this. And that's if you don't do door-to-door surveys, citywide door-to-door survey, which Martinville didn't need to do because the census data at the time put you guys well over that low to moderate income qualification for the grant.
Okay, but in the environmental thing, it says that it benefits 1,340 people to have new sewage lines on Northwest River Road when half the city doesn't even use city sewage. So
Where did you get that?
I don't think that's true.
it's in there, I can dig it up and show you.
Where did you get that?
No, this is from the environmental assessment.
I don't think we have half of our city on septic tanks. No.
But where's the number for that? Isn't that what you and I had discussed?
There's utility, there's 400 people doing garbage and there's 200 and something doing sewer. So 50% of the city is on sewer and 50% are not.
There you go.
I would say over 50% actually.
Well, that's Butterfly Meadows and those anaerobic septic systems that are in that whole neighborhood. But downtown, we are not.
Of course, the
There's
downtown,
very few septic tanks in the downtown of.
there should be none, hopefully.
Well, there's some old ones.
I mean, I have one still.
I had one too. But
Cistern.
Clay, did you have any questions? You said you had,
No, I believe we've covered everything.
okay.
Good.
I have one more. Does this new plan, y'all, include the recent survey that they did at the cemetery where they discovered the unmarked graves?
The archaeological survey was included under the environmental. And they
No, not
found
the one that y'all did, the one that they just did.
We
With the radar.
paid almost $2,000.
Would y'all hear her?
We paid almost I think it was $1,800.
That has not been presented to the city.
Right.
I mean, it's something that they
It's not
chose
finalized
to
yet.
do.
We don't have the final mapping from the company out of Mississippi that did it. They did ground penetrating radar assessments and marked, and they found 31 unmarked graves in the cemetery.
So how does that affect this?
I don't know.
It changes things
It's
probably.
creeping up on that easement when I walk around over there. I can
So-
tell that much.
Just
So,
be aware.
we're really working in the ravine area. We have the sharp slopes.
I'd like to see.
The likelihood of graves being included in those sharp slope areas is pretty low. And I know you did archaeology.
Yeah, on the proposed construction only, and they did digs, and they found, evidence of footstones. So they did require, as part of this grant, construction oversight on that part. So we will have to provide that when doing construction at the cemetery. So if anything does come up, everything stops until the archaeologists can do it.
We're doing very little work outside of that ravine. So basically the flat areas where you would expect graves is basically undisturbed and we won't have people working in those areas. Are you willing to share that data when it becomes?
Well, just when it's finalized.
Yeah, because we surely
Please.
don't want to disturb anything.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly not.
So I know one argument also was about emergency vehicles. So for, is there ever any data or proof that the emergency vehicle couldn't get over a 10-year storm? Like, I think somebody asked that, right? At some point.
This only helps a 2-year.
Well, now it's a 2-year, but it used to be
Yeah.
10 years, so.
Emergency vehicles will be able to get through this project in a 2-year storm, period.
Okay.
I think what you're asking is just the
Well,
justification
yeah,
for the project.
the original
and
was
the
for the
proposal.
project was because it's for emergency vehicles.
Right.
And so now it's like, well, that's not even a reason anymore.
Yeah, the justification. We're just getting back to the very beginning of the
In
justification
the
for
scary
the
letter for
project.
Langford, when we were saving lives, it was about emergency vehicles. Well, now are we still saving lives? Because it's a 2-year storm now.
Well,
Yeah.
today in a 2-year storm, there's pretty serious flooding on Northwest River Road. When this project is built, all the water will be under the street and everybody will be able to drive through it. That's clearly a benefit.
At that choke point with a graveyard, yeah, where it pulls up.
Now, everything beyond a 2-year storm, can't do anything about it. We don't have the money, don't have the space.
But the original grant was for a 10-year. Is that right? A 10-year event?
The grant was for flooding. We tried to do the most that we could do.
Yeah, this project has always been kind of a back-end approach. Here we have a certain amount of money, we have space to work in. What's the most drainage we could get in here? And that's how we came up with the 10-year storm. We thought at the time that we could get 2 culverts in there.
So on the grant application, it doesn't say this is for a 10-year storm.
I do not remember,
Is the grant for a 10-year storm?
Without going back and looking, I can see it off my head.
don't remember.
Same price now. 2-year versus a 10-year.
I think the question is the GLO gonna approve this modification because it's not providing the same level of.
It's still benefiting the city.
But if
Just not
if the
quite
grant
as
says- if the grant says 10 years, and we're not doing a 10-year project, is that going to be a problem?
I don't think the grant specifically stated how many years it had to solve. We were trying to solve the most that we could. But given the concerns of the citizens, we've had to kind of back it up. So,
Is there any savings to this plan monetarily?
Well, like I say, the culvert itself, removing one of the barrels saves about $300,000. But we suspect that when we do our next cost estimate, that inflation will have balanced that out.
However, right-of-way acquisition costs should be minimized some.
Exactly. So I was wondering if, okay. I'm just wondering
If
what else
if
we
the
could do.
inflation doesn't oversee or
Mhm.
Wish I had a better
take
answer
that
for
out,
you.
yeah.
And I was just wondering what more we could do. So
If-
if that was a possibility.
I think the idea is if there's extra funds to continue out as far Northwest River Road as possible.
What-
Just keep going. towards
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
Well,
After
right,
you
we go,
work.
yeah.
Our main street.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What's great about this? I would love to have this participation when we first start the grant process. Have the more the merrier to come in and have the citizens input. Totally.
But
you
did the
know?
homeowners know then?
Yes, they did.
I
They
was
did.
here.
I don't think anybody, that was
Yeah.
part of the problem, was that nobody
No,
was
we-
made aware
I
of
thought
this.
McGovern was a crazy man when he was talking about stuff like that.
Well, I am.
Well, he was telling you that, he was telling you that a year ago. And here's the worst part, is all of this information, from 2020,
Yeah.
there have been meetings, they've been on the website. I mean, everything.
Well, actually, that's not
So
true.
people don't really have.
No,
an
it's not on the
excuse
website.
For not being involved in our community. They just do not.
So the lady's house is gonna have a quarter of her house
The
taken
concern
away.
is we
Mayor.
trust you guys to do the right thing. We shouldn't
Yeah,
have to be in
We-
this hour.
I'm trying my best. I'm doing my best. I'm trying my
That's the
best.
concern. I shouldn't have to be here.
No, and sometimes we
Whoa,
should.
whoa, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, she gets,
Hey,
hey, Bill, Bill.
Bill.
Are there any more
Yeah, I
questions
have
about
one.
the
So
design?
your cost of the project is 15, your charge is 15% of the 6.7 million.
5.2.
You've done multiple drawings and all that. How close are you to the threshold of the 15% of your charge?
Didn't bring it up.
You know, I am so grateful to these engineers. They've done a great job.
Thank you.
I mean, do you have a
We're
rough?
not even 50%. We're not even 50%.
Give me 1 second.
No, I mean,
in our
like
buildings.
halfway there or?
I think it was 309 out of
700.
740 or so. He's got, it was on that,
Not
it was
quite
on that
halfway.
spreadsheet that.
40%, something like that.
Okay,
Here.
okay, good. We're still on project.
Do y'all,
Yeah, I mean, and so basically, since this is the city's grant, and, you know, the city should have say, which y'all have had say in it. But now, like, whenever it comes and like, I was requesting the budget and you heard how it has to be this way, but they do send invoices, so do you want to be able to see like where the money is going to? So would you like it itemized? Do you think this way is going to be? I wanted to see it itemized, but I hear what they're saying as far as that, but I think they said they turn over the invoices to the city. So I think like a monthly report whenever we have city council meeting would also be helpful to see where we're at on the grant.
Or do each of you want it handed to you in person?
Bill,
It could be on the website.
made it available on the website would be a good start.
It's always been there.
Well, I don't think it has, and that is a legal requirement of the grant. I've read
Yes,
the
the
contract.
GLO, I will tell you this, because I told, when I first moved here, it was on the website. And it's on a screenshot in the PIR I got, it was in the application. It has not been on the website for 2 years. There was a page on the city website for the GLO. You are in violation of the GLO for the last 2 years because it's not on there. It's a requirement of the grant for that to be on there. And I have contacted the GLO.
For what to be on there?
The actual application and the actual, design plans were on the website when I first moved here. And it's no longer there. That was a requirement.
I've never heard of that requirement before. GLO, they do require you to post it, the application. You have to post for at least, I think it's 15 or 16 days before you submit the application. But there's nothing saying that you can't take it off after the initial posting and public comment period.
I'm not sure about that. I'm just curious, do y'all think that this community is supporting of this project? I mean, just from could we do a show of hands of people who actually want this thing to go through?
Well, that's really not fair.
No, I'm just curious.
You gotta be fair, you gotta have,
mean,
you gotta
you know
have,
what I
you have
mean?
to have a vote of
I
the.
think there's
have
positives and negatives, you know,
Okay.
and we can talk about that offline, but.
We can.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
And
seem
it's
like,
not,
and
nothing's ideal, but we do need flooding mitigation.
new
The road
roads.
is just horrible.
The road is
We
good.
gotta
We got a new road, we're working on this grant for a sidewalk to phase 1. I mean, there's a lot of good things coming up out of the city, you know? I mean, just what I tell everybody, please participate. Come down and speak your mind.
Because nobody came last week for the grant.
Yeah, I mean, nobody ever shows up.
Nobody
So
showed up.
I watched that on Zoom, I couldn't make it, but there was one proposal that took a quarter of a lady's house over here, you know what I'm talking about, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So the next day I go and I knock on her door, I'm like, hey, they're wanting to take the corner of your house.
But we were against that though. We weren't for
You
that.
could have
But she
voted.
wasn't there.
You could have voted.
But I'm against that.
No, but you could have
But we
approved
could
it
have,
that night.
but again, we tabled it
It
for more
was the
discussion.
first
But
meeting.
did she know and was she there
It
to?
was a first.
The administrator was
Wait
pushing
a
me
minute.
on vote.
First meeting. We'll see, yes.
See you guys.
Can I say that if we have, I don't want to take this room back and do some backtracking, but I still have some questions. It's okay if I email the city council?
Please do.
I mean, we're doing the best we can.
Hey, you've done a great job.
We have. Give us a little.
Is there any more questions about the design of this new modification instead of?
Can I get back to the map
Yes.
on the cemetery land, please? I want to ask a question about something.
I mean, there you go.
Okay, the line that is segregated
Here?
around, what is that?
Segregated.
You wanna go up to the map right there? And there's a map that's right there and.
I've got it right here, you can get to try to see it loaded.
It's just not real clear. See the
Blue or
line?
red?
Talking about the
blue
black
or the
dashed
red?
line?
The dash line.
The black dash line is the proposed easement line that should have been, the document should have been included in your package?
Yeah.
Are we talking about this line right here?
Yes,
Yep, that's the proposed easement.
Easement line.
okay, so.
Laser. Doesn't work on the screen.
Yeah, we tried.
Okay, any other questions about the
That was
new
a reach.
design? Any
What
other
about the
questions
road?
about the new
What about the
design?
temporary road? Have we even talked about that?
We kind of scrambled to get this together. We haven't completely thought out the construction phasing and the temporary road. I apologize, but we only had about a month to kind of pull this together.
And we'd have another workshop on that, wouldn't we? We'd have another meeting.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Once we start construction. For the citizens here.
I have a question for you, Ms. Dale. It says that in the environmental assessment, list of sources, agencies, and persons consulted, and then it's got a little box with all these little things on here. Like, what exactly is this? Or was there like emails to them or phone calls? Because it has like Google on here. It has the National Park Service. Like, what does the National Park Service have to do with this project?
We have to look at endangered species
Oh,
as part of the environmental assessment. A lot of those, it's just listing out the sources we use to complete the environmental assessment. A lot of it is online,
okay.
made for purposes like that GLO uses for the environmental assessments. It's like up-to-date information for us to pull from to back up.
So you didn't necessarily contact a person, but
No, no, not
you
all
used
of them.
online
Just like basically.
search databases.
Yeah, I guess so it's like Google, like.
We use Google Maps to determine like the distance from the closest part of the project to the floodplain or
Okay.
coastal, just everything in the assessment we have to go through.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much.
Any other questions about the new design? Okay.
This has been a great meeting. Thank you very much for the questions and input. It's very, very helpful to us. Thank you.
Yeah, I like citizens' participation. I really do. You know,
And then we do have the master plan coming up, so if you would like to give input when that's on the agenda, please come, because that's coming up. $300,000 master plan, so please comment on that and come to the meetings.
Yeah, please. Say what you want.
Could we make a request that things that are discussed in the meetings be made available, maybe at least 24 to 48 hours before the meeting? Because this thing being put up right before the meeting tonight was pretty impossible to look at and to comprehend.
Can I say something? So last week, we had been working on, to get ready for the the last city council meeting, we were looking at a $2.3 million grant. And we had actually been talking about several different things, and finally we said, we really need to take this to the city council and see what they do. And so they put together all the different things that we had been talking about with as much information about those different options as possible. And then we were throwing at them, come up with a new design that will help make make it more agreeable for the citizens and address their concerns. So we've given them a lot to do in the last month. So I did talk to Mr. Turk last Friday. We talked for quite a while, and I asked him if there was something that I could forward to people, and he said, I'm just not gonna have it done till Monday morning. So then that's why we didn't get it until today. I don't know what time it was, 10 or 12 o'clock. And I really do believe they've done a wonderful job in trying to address our wants and needs here in Martindale.
But that drawing's been posted on your website, correct?
Yes.
It's gonna stay there?
Yes.
So take all the time you want to look at it. If you have further questions, please send them to the
And when are
city.
we supposed to be voting on this design?
Well, I did put it on the city council meeting for Thursday, but it sounds like there's a lot more work to be done. So, if we can't even talk about it if it's not on the agenda. So I put it on the agenda, but we probably will not vote on it. It would be my guess until we get a more detailed.
Yeah, plus we have
design.
time, don't we have time?
I know, but I mean, just like as a council member, we kind of get the drawings like right before the meeting, the new proposal, we really don't have time.
That
to-
hasn't been always.
I
mean, a lot of
I'm
times.
talking
we
about
get-
right now, we don't have time to let it digest. It's gonna be on the agenda for the next meeting. And then, so like with talking to everybody, it's kind of hard because we can't have a quorum. If we're talking about it, we have to have the meeting posted. So we've like been in a bind as a council trying to meet and talk with the changes and they barely getting the info.
Plus, we need to wait for the report from the cemetery that they did. And so I don't think we can really have it unless you want to discuss it more, but I'd really rather wait until we get the report from her.
Put it on the agenda table if we're not ready.
Yeah, we'll just table it. If we can't talk about it, it's not on the agenda, so. We did put it there because I didn't know if after tonight's meeting, we would have something that the council would want to vote on.
We have 3 months, you said? 3 additional months for this decision to be made.
Not on this one.
What is the time period on this?
Well, this you already have a contract.
I mean, before as the council to vote.
There's no set
We
time.
just have to have it done before 2025.
Yeah, it's just the longer you wait, the more the cost goes up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we need to make a decision. Not this week, but
Yeah.
give us some time, people's input,
Well, we need to contact these property owners.
let everybody, it'd be nice if all the property owners that are affected could be here.
Well, and we, except for that one,
Yeah, yeah,
we
most-
did talk to, or at least contacted them.
Yeah.
Barbara Hall owns the rental property from G&H, and she's letting you take care of everything.
That's what you said?
You've been anointed.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck. Keep everybody happy.
I was at the last meeting and I heard all of the complaints and I do feel like y'all did a really good job addressing this. So
Good job.
Thanks. You too. Well, thank y'all for your feedback. Had we known that up front, maybe we wouldn't have presented what we did.
Yeah, and
But
it's
that's
like,
good. That's good.
for the emails, like, on you not wanting to answer emails, like, it's good that people know that you're not gonna respond to emails, or you do respond to emails, but like, is there a reason why?
Can I address that, please? So, we also had people contacting our attorney And our attorney and our engineers are valuable resources. And if we have everybody just contacting them before they go through the office, we don't have any way to control the cost. So we're asking people to please go through the city offices first. Like talk to me, Jared, Adrian, so then we can pass on any concerns that people have.
And can you post that somewhere or something? Because at first it was like,
Email or,
no, just like on the website for comments or concerns, please contact the city first. Because I think at
Yeah,
first, whenever
we-
the grants were out, it
we
was
could do
like,
that.
we'll answer any questions, so I totally get it, I understand, but I think at first we were a little bit more, and then with Mr. McGovern having the meeting with them as a citizen, I'm sure there was a cost incurred with that.
Well, Garrett,
He's
Thomas was
special.
already here.
He's special.
So I think like,
Well, he's a taxpayer as well. It's
Yeah.
not, he's just a city council person. He's a
But then
taxpayer.
see, yes, he's affected by the project, but then yet anybody else who's affected by the project should also
Oh,
be able to
I
have a
will be
meeting.
eventually affected by the
Yeah.
project. It's gonna come
We
down my.
haven't said that somebody else couldn't talk.
No,
to
no,
him.
I'm just
Just
stating.
that we were having lunch. Matthew bought my lunch. He specifically
I
wanted
bribed
to
her.
talk to me.
Let it all out.
He said he wanted to talk to Thomas, and I said, well, he's gonna be here Monday. I'll call and see if he can stay later. So it wasn't any big thing that we were trying to subvert somebody
And then
else.
at the next meeting, I went and told everyone what we discussed at the beginning of the meeting with public comments. And I included the handout that I showed with why I was concerned about what Bonnie went and just took on to another level, trying to explain about saying the right of way was beyond necessity, if you will. That was the argument, so.
And I just thought that was really nice, because if you're that personable with the taxpaying citizen who is acting as a capacity in a citizen, then how nice to offer it to other citizens as
Oh,
well.
I think Mark does a great job. I mean, go to San Marcos, try to be listened to. Good luck. I've tried that multiple times.
And check out their flood mitigation.
Yeah, check them out. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, hey, you got your 3 minutes and you're done. So, I mean, that's a good thing about Martindale. People can come in and voice their opinion. And it's a
So
democracy.
you're just saying that there wasn't, hey, it's not on the website, and there's not an option, hey, would you like to have lunch with the engineers? That's what you're getting at.
Well, I mean, you have to know that, hey, yes, we're accessible, yes, ask questions, no, don't ask questions, no, we can't answer emails, so.
Well, I think it's really important, and this is a good lesson learned, because we're gonna have more grants coming this way. We need some kind of process of, hey, this is how the communication, so yes, putting it on the website saying, hey, if you have questions, concern about anything due to the city's proposals or grant proposals or whatever we have going on, please come to the administration
Come to
so
the
you can filter it
city
out.
offices.
I mean, there's gotta be some kind of process here, because it's transparency is key. But there needs to be a process, because this is gonna keep happening, we don't have a process in
I
place.
tell you what, we're more transparent than most cities.
Yeah, I understand
I
that.
guarantee you.
For sure.
I'll go with San Marcos. I've dealt with San Marcos
But
for years.
as we grow.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be less customer service.
Yeah, but also, if we have a process and we outgrow that process, we evolve with that process. So we don't have a process in place right now, we're learning, it's all a learning process. So we need to put it in action, so.
Good point.
And we've got a lot of grants coming down the road, so you're right, we need to have a lot of good things can happen, so.
And everybody that's interested needs to take the initiative.
I think they are.
Well,
Well, we've had some initiatives tonight, I would say.
but I want to tell you, with this whole process, this has been going on for over 2 years, right? And we have several people who keep saying, well, they were never told anything. Well, they never told anything. They never came to a meeting up until now. So, and then it becomes Chicken Little, the sky is falling.
Well, which we can learn from our lessons, it's just we'll improve in the future.
Okay.
Be open.
I probably need to get off that soapbox.
Okay,
Okay.
well, meeting is ended.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.